We only hear of isolated cases of suicide bombing and bombing blasts across the country. And hopefully, Nigeria will soon come to know peace because we are on the right course. And thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
We thank the Honorable Minister of Interior for the good things and tell Nigerians what he is doing in the Interior Ministry. Minister of Interior.
My colleague ministers, permanent secretaries, heads of parastatals and ministerial departments, invited guests, members of the Fourth Estate of the Realm, ladies and gentlemen. Let me state here that this platform, initiated and introduced by the Ministry of Information, affords all of us the opportunity of presenting to Nigerians and watchers of the Nigerian political scene the attainments and efforts of our ministry in realizing the mandate of the ministry that I gave to you at this platform last year, which in summation is the fostering of the maintenance of internal security and citizenship integrity for the promotion of good governance. What I am going to say this afternoon, therefore, is the articulation of the efforts that the Minister of Interior has made since July and the policies and projects that we have executed in tandem with the mandate of the ministry as encapsulated in the transformation agenda of Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, GCFR. The presentation, therefore, is anchored on the strides made and measures taken in addressing some of the challenges was restructuring, reorganizing, and repositioning the Ministry of Interior and its parastatals and agencies under my supervision. The reforms are geared towards addressing the increasing internal security challenges and the international dimension that these challenges have assumed. For the purpose of clarification and emphasis, it is pertinent for me to say here that the mandate includes the granting of Nigerian citizenship, the offering of immigration and consular services, granting of business permits and expatriate quotas, coordination of National Independence Day celebrations, reformation and reintegration of inmates of our prisons, security of life and properties, and above all, the recruitment of officers, men and women, into the services of the Ministry of Interior and its agencies. Let me therefore state here that since assumption of office, against the backdrop of hues and cries about expatriate quota abuse, Ministry of Interior automated the operations of the Citizenship and Business Department of the ministry. And we did that in view of the paucity of funds in the ministry, with a PPP arrangement with a consultant firm. Of engagement was held in Lagos, and I'm happy to inform you today that we have been able to successfully test run the project And today, there is less touch on papers, less touch of human beings in the administration and processing of quota administration in Nigeria. If you look at the pages here, the Deputy Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria did the commissioning. And of course, all the members of the Committee of the National Assembly of Interior were there, and the pictures there will speak for themselves in that page and the subsequent page. And of course, you will also see the servers of that project on that page. You will recall that last year I informed you that because of the transformation agenda and the requirements of the transformation agenda of this administration, it became necessary to introduce the e-visa policy. And by implication, we have been able to introduce a visa policy that will assist and facilitate foreign direct investment in Nigeria. Because today, in addition to getting visas at less than 24 hours in our missions by immigration officers, you also have visa processing at the ports of entry, which is an innovation. And today, you can apply in UK, in US, or Germany for a visa, come to the airport in Abuja here, and procure your visa just like it is done in other countries. Today, therefore, our visa application and processing has become advanced and it conforms with international best practices. Today, the e-passport system has taken root in our immigration service. You will recall that I also informed you, and for want of emphasis, repeat here, that the introduction of the e-passport system in Nigeria was first of all to conform to the international best practice of ICAO standards. Again, it was also to stop the abuse of our passports, which hitherto was a situation where one person can procure as many as 100 passports of the Nigerian passport booklet. But today, because we have introduced the e-passport system, because we have also introduced several measures to forestall the forging of our passports, you can hardly see Nigerians or foreigners having more than one Nigerian passport. Because in addition to instituting biometric capturing system that captures the identity of individuals, we have gone from the 4-finger identity formation on our passport now and visas to our 10-finger. And the reason is this, that when we were using our 4 fingers, the tendency was for somebody to use 4 fingers here and use 4 fingers here, and still has 2 more fingers if he wants to manipulate the system. But today, we capture the 10 fingers, and the person will no longer have any other finger with which to falsify our records. Our e-passport arrangement also has the mobile component, and that means that we can now move from place to place to issue passports to Nigerians, and especially for Nigerians in the diaspora that have to travel great distances to procure our passports. This becomes very, very necessary. And I can tell you today that on record as of today, the Nigerian Immigration Service has been able to send intervention personnel to 444 countries across the world to give Nigerians passports in these countries. And also to consummate the processes. The Nigerian Immigration Service today has the automation of our travel documents. And what that means is that it will stop the abuse of passport processing by unscrupulous Nigerians and their collaborators. And so today, we have installed in our ministry the electronic machine-readable travel document at all the international airports. And so the old pattern that does not at our airports genuine travel documents. This is to provide the authentication of Nigerian e-passports and other electronic machine-readable travel documents of other countries. And this is because in the past, because of the duplication of our passports, Nigerian passports and travel documents were not respected by international community, by the international community. But today, because we have the e-passport, because we have also introduced the machine-readable mechanism, Nigerian passports conform to other international passports across the globe. One of the major problems that we have in the recent past, especially in the face of our current security challenges, is the porous nature of our borders, especially at the northern flanks. All parts of our borders are routes. And so we have attempted, and in conjunction with the National Boundaries Commission, I repeat, we have been able to identify total number of 1,497 legal routes. We have equally identified 84 regular routes. For the 84 regular routes, and if you look at the pictures that follow, you will discover that virtually what we call border posts are places that can be overrun by any hoodlums at any point in time. They are made of thatches, they are demarcated by tires and woods, and that certainly does not befit the nature and standard of Nigeria. And so today, for those 84 regular routes, in conjunction with private partners and developers, we are at the verge of procuring the necessary approvals for the construction of border control plazas. And because we also want to forestall the tendency for illegal transactions and the use of illegal routes, we are also on the verge of procuring markets and transaction centers at our border posts, so that if we provide legitimate, legal transaction centers, the tendency for people to use illegal routes to do illegal transactions certainly will be minimized. If you look at the picture on page 11, it's a typical 10-finger printing for identification, just like I said now. I know that when the Minister of Information was doing introduction, he forgot or deliberately avoided introducing the Controller General of the Fire Service. And I was sharing some jokes with my friend. So maybe because nobody wants fire, nobody wants to recognize that the man in charge of fire is here. But let me say that the Federal Fire Service is doing a wonderful job. Before I assumed office, there was a tendency to reduce the Federal Fire Service to a mere regulatory body. And the transfer of all our fire stations, even the little ones that we have in Lagos and Abuja, to the various state governments. That attitude has been reversed, and today the Federal Fire Service is at the verge of procuring approval for the construction of 227 fire stations across the country. This is intended to ensure that, in conformity with standards of fighting fire and emergencies, that no fire station or point of emergency is more than 2.5 kilometers apart. And in consonance with that, and in readiness to take its rightful place, today, in partnership with a private organization, the Federal Fire Service has developed and installed and commissioned the automatic fire alert system, which automatically sets off an alarm on the detection of smoke. Again, the Federal Fire Service has also, in conjunction with all stakeholders, developed, and it is at the verge of approval for use, a Federal Fire Safety Code, which prescribes a minimum fire requirement for every person that wants to construct a building. We believe that by such, we will be able now to to at least forestall the occurrence of fire emergencies. One of those areas that have been most vilified and crucified is the Nigerian prison system. Because more often than not, you hear of prison breaks. In recent times, because of the security challenges that we face, you also discover that the prisons have become targets of hoodlums and criminals. And so, in some cases, the prisons are attacked and inmates forcefully removed. In some cases, in tandem with the endemic problem of corruption, some unscrupulous members of the force connive to break our jails. But the worst of it all is that most of the system that is in operation in the prison until now have been very, very antiquated traditional systems that does not and cannot contain the modernism that is going on in the management of the prison system. I'm happy to inform you that the e-prison system, over which a memorandum of understanding has been entered into with a Chinese organization, Huawei, provides for an effective information and surveillance management system in our prisons. And when fully operational, these activities will, to a large extent, be abated. In order that we are safe in this country and to consummate our attitude towards the management of our borders, I wish to inform you that Nigeria has entered into bilateral agreements with our neighbors, Niger Republic, Chad Republic, and Cameroon. And the idea in the terms of agreement is that we should be able to collaborate and cooperate with ourselves and support ourselves to do a joint patrol of our borders so that we can secure our borders and illegal movement of human beings. And today, I'm pleased to inform you that Nigeria has contributed its operational vehicles as part of its own fulfillment of the bilateral agreement. And that agreement will become operational as soon as the commissioning is done in the next couple of weeks. I have talked about our jailbreaks, I've talked about our emergencies. Let me clarify a position here, that the Federal Fire Service is the first responder to emergencies, whether they are fire disasters or natural disasters. And you will agree with me that with the activities of the Federal Fire Service in the UN bombing, the activities of the Federal Fire Service in the Madala bombing of our church, and several other emergencies that have occurred in recent times, that the Federal Fire Service had always been the first to respond. But that is not all. Within the mandate of the Civil Defense Corps, there is a standing unit that responds to emergencies. And in recent times, they have been in the news. The Civil Defense Corps has discharged its responsibility by responding to its major mandate of responding to pipeline vandalization and electric cable vandalization. And if you look at page 21, you'll see the numbers there. Illegal refineries destroyed by the Civil Defense Corps, 95. Total number of trucks seized, 545. Bunkering cache destroyed, 3. Number of boats seized, 9. Number of vessels seized, 4. And number of jerry cans seized, 1,548. In addition to that, the Civil Defense Corps has been in the forefront of protecting our critical infrastructures. And in conjunction with all relevant government agencies, the Power Holding of Nigeria, the NIMASA, and other agencies that require their services, they have cooperated and worked with them to secure these critical infrastructures. Civil Defense Corps also, you are aware, is responsible for the registration and guidance of private guard companies. And if you look at all the pages, the number of guard companies registered A, B, and C, the number of guard companies that have not performed and have been prescribed are listed there. And so, this service under the Ministry of Interior provides adequate security for the prevention of fraud, for the prevention of underperformance. And today I can tell you, ranging from job racketeering to forgery of papers, that at the moment, within the jurisdiction of its laws and the framework within which it works, the Civil Defense Corps and people who have perpetrated some level of job racketeering that has been attributed mostly to the Ministry of Interior. And I say for the umpteenth time that a sizable number of the persons, more than 99% of the persons that have been apprehended, some are in, some jailed so far, are not officers of the Ministry of Interior or its agencies. The Civil Defense, you are aware, is involved in more activities than any other security agency that you can find in Nigeria. Whether it is Joint Task Force, whether it is protection of our pipelines, whether it is even community policing, community vigilance, community governance, you will agree with me that more than any other agency, the Civil Defense is spread across the length and breadth of Nigeria, and that there is no community you can go without seeing the Civil Defense. E-governance is the in thing. With the automation of all our facilities, you will agree with me that more than any other ministry, the Ministry of Interior is in the forefront of the fight from the other side against corruption. We have an e-recruitment platform now. We have automated most of our services, and therefore, the tendency for paperwork is reduced, the tendency of contact of processes with human beings reduced. Where these are reduced, corruption consequently reduces. Time wasting reduces. Services are timely and more effectively delivered to the people. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it is my hope that members of the public will seize on the opportunity that is provided for the platform of e-recruitment that has been introduced in the ministry now, so that the case of job racketeering, job for money, will become a thing of the past. You will often hear of ECOWAS free movement, which people mistake to be an automatic license for other non-Nigerians to enter Nigeria. The ECOWAS protocol of movement does not warrant unrestricted movement across our borders without the procurement of appropriate travel documents. And so from time to time, the Ministry of Interior, especially through the instrument of the Nigerian Immigration Service, meets with to review the protocol of movement to ensure that all other countries conform with it. Let me say that we are able to do most of these things because we engage in capacity building. So whether it is in the prisons, or it is in the Civil Defense Corps, or in immigration, or the fire service, or even the ministry, the Ministry of Interior engages on a very continuous basis on both local and international capacity building programs. And so today, if you look at our papers, you will see the number of persons in prisons, over 2,000. In the Civil Defense Corps, over 22,000. In immigration, we train over 4,000. And it's on a continuous basis, either by the instruments of our institutions in the country or training abroad in Egypt, in Israel, in the US, and recently in the United Kingdom. And so all the pictures that you find there are pictures of physical projects that have been concluded and executed by the Ministry of Interior. But let me tell you this, and I want to end on that note, that the Federal Ministry of Interior entered into performance agreement with Mr. President. And for the avoidance of doubt, I want to say that to a very reasonable extent, the performance agreement between the Minister of Interior and Mr. President has been effectively and very efficiently executed. So if you look at page 69, as an example, the baseline for the procurement of, page 69 is the reduction in response time to fire disasters by the fire service from 30 minutes in 2011 to 25 minutes in 2012. And if you go down to the procurement of our passports and visas, it has reduced from 3 days to 2 days, from 36 hours now to 24 hours. The level of tendency of people to return from being freed from the prisons back to the prisons, because of the instruments that we have established in resettling people to effectively integrate into the society after service, the reduction level is virtually 74% now, because I can tell you that today 690 persons have been discharged from our prisons and have been resettled effectively into the society. Two new innovations that we introduced. Today, the Minister of Interior has entered into agreement with a private organization to manage our farm centers across the country, to achieve two things: to teach the inmates effectively how to use the farms to integrate into the society by acquiring the necessary skills, and two, to contribute our own quota to the food security challenges that we face in this country today. And so, in the next couple of years, I am very sure that instead of the Minister of Agriculture, the Minister of Interior will be responsible for food production in this country. What we have in this country is a problem of housing. I want to quickly inform you, for those of you who didn't know, that the Ministry of Interior has a novel social housing scheme that was recently launched by Mr. President. That is the paramilitary village housing scheme. It is our intention to lead the way for other agencies to follow. And it is our hope that by this time next year, all of you here will be invited to come and witness the commissioning of the first set of houses that will be produced by the Ministry of Interior. We have our challenges, the challenges of fund, which is the reason why we are going PPP now, the challenge of obsolete laws, which is the reason that we still operate a prison system and immigration system that is virtually obsolete and not in tandem with the modern trends. We have our challenges of the rot in the system that has taken root in most parts of the life of the average Nigerian, called corruption. But we have made our modest efforts to mitigate the problem of funding. We may not have effectively secured our borders now, but every step that the Ministry of Interior has taken has been geared towards ensuring that we have an effective border control system, in addition to introducing modern technology in our surveillance to ensure that people of questionable characters are not allowed into the country. We may not have achieved the best that we have to achieve in fighting fire, but you know by the account that I have given now that every step is being taken to ensure that we have a very effective firefighting architecture in this country that will mitigate against consequences of fire disasters. And so, ladies and gentlemen, today we can now heave a sigh of relief because the level of tension for fear of violence has reduced in this country.